Welcome to the top 5 parries of Tekken. If you're just catching up, we looked at attack reversals and then moved on to parries. Next up we will look at the Sabaki feature, but first, let's look at the top 5 characters with the best parries in Tekken 7. Now quick disclaimer, I am a scrub, simply gifted with the power of Yomi. Now what is Yomi?
Oh, good! You can see things no one else can see, do things no one else can do.
Real things?
As real as Lopan.
But first let's decide on the characters and their ranks. Now I've critiqued each character based on 3 criteria. First up is the versatility of their parry. Can it be used in a variety of situations or only one? Next up is how much does their parry style actually match the character's archetype or playstyle? And finally, how important is this parry to the character? Do you even need it to be successful? Is something missing from your arsenal if you don't use it? Or what follow-up options do you have after a successful parry? I am the unknown Feng. Welcome to my channel.
Put the diamond needle, bullet through your ego. Bang. Put the diamond needle, bullet through your ego. Bang. Motherfucker, war!
Lei Wulong is a confusing opponent, but also a versatile character. His gameplay is all about finding the right stance for the right situation, and this definitely applies to his 6 different parries. 2 of them allow him to transition into other stances, while the other 4 can only be activated from his stances. Let's start by looking at his 5 gates form and Drunken Master Walk. This parry's primary focus is flowing into any one of his animal stances, and that could be one of the main reasons why the startup of 5 gates is so slow. This makes it one of the most difficult parries to use against individual attacks such as pokes or launchers, but perfect against strings, especially if the first attack is whiffed or if the attack is slow. From 5 gates form, Lei can directly move into any one of his 5 animal stances: the snake, dragon, panther, tiger, or crane. I consider panther and tiger to be 2 of his best stances for mix-ups, but each one of these actually hides an extremely useful attribute. While in tiger, by simply pressing forward, you are given access to an auto parry for high or mid punches or kicks with the tiger stance, leaving you at +7. While a panther offers an auto block for lows as well as a low parry by just pressing forward, it makes it an excellent Okuzumi tool as well. Finally, while not as good as the tiger or panther, his crane is a true auto parry that works really well against lows. The Drunken Master Walk is a good mix-up parry, and its startup is also 15 frames faster than the 5 gates. The parry animation can be confusing as Lei spins to the right or left and appears just as stunned as his opponent. It also knocks you out of Drunken Master Walk stance. This is actually a blessing in disguise since most attacks in that stance start at around 17 or 18 frames. A successful punch parry will leave you at plus frames, but not enough to guarantee anything. It's more of a mix-up situation, and usually the other player will duck out of respect of a down back 3. While in Drunken Master, by simply pressing forward you gain access to a much faster parry. However, it's extremely limited, but if you press forward during a high punch, you're getting to a much more offensive parry. With 24 frames of advantage, you stay in Drunken stance and have a guaranteed Drunken Kick launcher with an 18 frame startup. Drunken Master Walk is actually pretty flexible because there are many ways to set up this parry. A few of them are In terms of versatility, he gets a 3 out of 5. Now the 5-gate form gives Lei the ability to transition into any animal style, and the Drunken Master Walk leads to a mix-up. The two setbacks are that they only work when punches, and the startup frames for the 5-gates form is at 20, and with the standard jab being 10 frames, that is unacceptable. Now, as we said before, Lei's archetype is all about finding the right stances and mixing up your opponent. And for that reason, he is at a full 5 out of 5. A good Lei player is fundamentally sound, but a great Lei player can create situations and get into their opponent's head. Watching the reaction of opponent when dashing in with a panther or tiger is always fun to watch. And Lei's auto parry from Crane works surprisingly well. Any of Lei's strings and stances have mix-ups, but most importantly, even his parries mix up his opponent. A successful 5 forms parry is just too difficult to achieve, but it's not impossible. If you're able to create enough space and you have an aggressive puncher, it will help, but I wouldn't say that you need it. The tiger stance's parry is probably the most important, and attacking a tiger results in a 7-frame disadvantage. While the follow-ups are not always guaranteed, you can still have some success from a mix-up. While no one could come to an agreement about their gender, we can say that Leo comes with a nice set of parries. As an all-around good character, Leo has 3 main parries. The most interesting thing about Leo is that her parries are just as versatile as her attack style. She has 3 main parries that change depending on the opponent's attack. Her back 1+3 or 2+4 reacts very differently from a punch or kick. While the kicks are automatically reversed, the punches are actually parried, and a back 1-3 against a parry allows you to change sides. However, this parry really shines when Leo's back is against the wall, and part of Leo's main strength is her wall damage. A successful parry will end with either a wall splat or balcony break. This in turn can lead to some guaranteed combos and the rage arc. Leo's back 1+2 is Leo's command parry, and while it does have a slower startup by 4 frames, it is also quite similar to the aforementioned back 1+3. It functions as a command parry and can stop both punches, and kicks as well with a slight variance in input. This parry also causes wall splats and balcony breaks as well. One final benefit is that Leo can key charge right after a successful parry. And finally, there is Leo's up back 1 command parry. Leo's only stops high punches, but it leaves you at plus frames.
Leo's parries are extremely versatile. They can be used against kicks or punches and are active from 2 to 10 frames. Even Leo's back 1+2 parry is useful, since it starts from 6 frames. What happens after this frame is also helpful, as it causes wall and balcony breaks.
And for that reason, I give Leo's versatility a 4 out of 5.
Leo's archetype is being versatile and having the ability to change playstyles on the whim. Having your back against the wall is never a great position to be in, but on the flip side, a Leo player has access to a parry that allows you to change positions and the overall pace of the match.
And for this reason, I give Leo a 4 out of 5 for her archetype rating. In regard to the importance of Leo's parry, I give her a 3 out of 5, and let's see why.
While a Leo player doesn't have to be as reversal hungry as an Asuka main, it is really helpful to have a parry on hand just in case. Leo can go into a raised drive or art for more damage against the wall splat from a parry, and this is really good against opponents that want to pressure. Back 1+3 is great when the wall is behind you, and back 1+2 is perfect when the wall is in front of you. I would recommend spamming parries, but depending on where you are on the stage, her parries can really help you with your defense or offense.
The orange Hakama Weebu first showed up in 3D all the way back in 1993
where he was countering attacks. Since his arrival in Tekken, Geese has been given some huge gifts in terms of things he can parry. Now his parry system can be divided into 3 levels. We've already established the rules that a reversal is an animation with a prearranged attack, while a parry doesn't cause any damage but instead leaves you at frame advantage. Now, Geese's parry system can be divided into 3 different categories depending on the attack level in Tekken. First up, Jodan Atene. This is Geese's high attack reversal. It cannot be chickened and it results in a knockdown with the head up, feet facing away. Now Geese's low parry is known as the Geidan Atene. This low parry also stops special mids as well, and it works very similar to a low parry, but there are some differences. His Gindan actually causes 30 damage points. And so we have the Chudan Atene. This is Geese's mid parry that leaves you at plus 16. If Geese's back is to the wall, you can expect the same results as a Leo back 1+2 punch parry. Yes, this is the beginning of the parries that literally stop anything, but there are quite a few roadblocks. Most parries have a back 1+2 or a 2+4, and while they do parry rage drives, rage arts will smash right through them. Most parries in the game also stop high and mid attacks, but with Geese, you have to predict the level of the attack and input the correct corresponding parry. Finally, the initial input of half circle back takes some getting used to, but with a good read and regular practice, you can overcome this obstacle. For that very reason, I give Geese a 2 out of 5 in terms of versatility. For archetype, I can easily rate Geese a solid 5 out of 5. Geese is a 2D character in a 3D world. However, he's not just a 2D character, he's the final boss in at least 11 different Fatal Fury games. He's also a meter character that uses his max mode to change properties of his attack. This even applies to his parries because while he's in max mode, he can parry high and mids when using the input for a high parry. Finally, his damage output is multiplied while in max mode, and after a successful parry, he can go into either one of his rage arts, one in particular which is notorious for its gatekeeping input. How important are Geese's parries? It really depends on how comfortable you are with that character. Someone who has been using him since the early Fatal Fury and King of Fighter days will be right at home. But if your opponent is using a predictable move and you're in the right position, that helps as well. But do you really need Geese's parries to succeed? They are powerful and they have decent damage output. These parries are also tied to his meter as well. You can do quite well without knowing his parries, but they really do help out, and they can easily turn the tide of a match. When the developers at Bandai Namco were giving out parries to the newest characters, Leroy really got the lion's share. If Asuka is the queen of attack reversals, then Leroy Smith is easily the queen of parries. The Wing Chun Master has at least 6 different parries, and they all come with different properties. Most of them have the standard properties of stopping at mid or high level punches and kicks with both limbs. But Leroy's parries also stop headbutts, elbows, and knees, and much like Geese, his parries can stop high or mid level rage arts. And one of his parries can even auto parry lows. What really pushes Leroy past Geese is his ease of use. Leroy can stop every single parry that Geese can with less focus on the attack level. Now this twin gate parries is actually a command parry, which means that he has the option of going into a flurry of chain punches for a 40% damage, or he doesn't have to do anything. And one of the few setbacks is that the start off for the following attack is 13 frames. And that gives much of the Tekken cast a chance to counter him if their parried attack recovers sooner. Now basically, after a 10 frame poke, he would still be 3 frames ahead, which is why this happens. Now Leroy also has the option of launching if the parried attack is slow enough, but again that can be parried as well. This is one of his auto parry stances. It has a slow start up at around 20 frames, but is active until 80 frames. While in piercing charge, Leroy does enter into an auto parry state, but also has an option to continue into an unblockable attack. Leroy can also parry from his taunt, inflicting psychological damage. Hearing "you got nothing" with his hand gesture is like waving a red flag at an angry bull. Unfortunately, doing that is begging to be parried. And this is because after 20 frames until around 100, his taunt also takes auto parry properties. His pulsing fist can be started by inputting up forward 1, and it's almost like a sabaki, but the property and animation are the same as his back 2 parry. It doesn't go through the attack like the others, but instead enters into a parry animation. Now the fact that he can parry from his strings is quite a new concept in Tekken. This attack has a built-in parry properties between his second and third attack. This means that you can also apply pressure with the string while setting up a parry counter. This is another attack string with a built-in parry between the second and third attack. A successful parry goes into his twin gates parry. Finally, Leroy can go into his hermit stance. From Hermit, Leroy has access to his twin gates parry, limited to high and mid attacks. He also has access to a low parry. What makes this low parry so strong is that it's actually an auto parry against low attacks. Now the startup for Hermit is 17 frames, which means death to all snake edges. Leroy is a new character, and his parries have really made him a powerhouse.
For versatility, Leroy is easily rated a 5 out of 5. Leroy has the most parries in Tekken, and at least half of them go back to his twin Dragon Gate parry. He's able to parry from a variety of stances. In fact, he can even parry from interrupted strings. He can also stop rage arts and rage drives from all 3 levels quite easily. For how well his parries fit into his archetype, he is a 4 out of 5. Leroy can be played both offensively and defensively. He's extremely strong and has a lot of counter hit attack setups. His hermit stance is quite intimidating, and he does have some 50-50 aspects to his game as well. His entire theme has been about ease of use, easy juggles, easy movement, and easy parries. But ask yourself, how are Leroy players using his parries? Do they in fact even need them? And that is a tough question to answer, but when playing against Leroy, I noticed a much more reliance on his Hermit 1 Sabaki or all standing counter hit versus his parry use. For the importance of his parries, I rate them a 3 out of 5. While his parries are quite easy, there doesn't seem to be much need for them. Much more effort has been placed into his high-low mix-ups and other counter hit attacks, and less on his parry setups. Leroy has excellent movement and attack strings, so there really isn't a huge emphasis beyond style points for his parries. Ling breaks all the rules with her Art of Phoenix stance, but she also has an amazing parry system as well. Her spinner up and spinner down are both 2-punch parries that leave her at plus 5 frames. Her high mid 1 plus 4 gives her a plus 7, and she is an extremely difficult character to pin down, and being able to use her parries effectively only adds frustration and confusion to the levels of her opponents. Martial Law's parry system is also quite useful for his gameplay. He can pressure his opponents with plus frame attacks and easily parry them into one of his stances. With his parry back 1 plus 3, you can stop punches and kicks, making it quite flexible, and it also leaves you at plus 5 frames. One great option is that after this parry, Law can go into his Dragon Charge stance, and after a successful parry, a guaranteed Dragon Knuckle Flight. His fake parry stance is a command parry with an active frame from 3 to 71 frames. His fake stance parry also has 4 different extensions, giving him a lot of flexibility in his attack. But obviously his back 1 plus 3 is the better one. It is no secret that Jin tops the list at number 1.
In his Tekken 3 debut, he started with an attack reversal much like his mom, but since his personal decision to reinvent himself in Tekken 4, Jin has been gifted with one of the best parries in Tekken. I know it wasn't that long ago, but try to remember that before Leroy, there was Jin. Besides stopping both punches and kicks, headbutts, shoulders, elbows, knees, and even charges from the shoulder. He can stop sword attacks, he can stop bats, he can stop even Loctis's Regis sword. But Jin can also stop unblockables, rage drives, and rage arts. Unlike Asuka's reversals. His parry requires much more precision because with a 6-frame window, it's far less forgiving. In the hands of someone gifted with Yomi, he is extremely dangerous. I want you to close your eyes for a second and listen to the sound of a successful parry and see if you can guess what type of parry it is and which type of character is doing it. Let's begin. Usually, there is the generic sound of a rush of air combined with a stumbling opponent, or a slapping sound, or some voice actor's grunt or even insult. But you don't get that with Jin. He simply waves his arm and passes through the attack like some Jedi. This means that before you even realize that your attack has been parried, you may already be launched in the air for a combo or worse, hearing the sound of his rage art being activated.
I'm in danger!
Jin only has one parry. He only needs one parry. His parry window is shorter, but he can literally parry anything. From the usual punches and kicks and rage drives to tackles and rage arts, Jin is able to go right through the attack. The shorter parry window means a quicker recovery time and more launches after a parry. And so for that reason, I have to give Jin a 5 out of 5 for versatility. Jin is all about being cool under pressure. He's able to play in a quite versatile way as Feng, but with much better tools. He has some Mishima attacks as well, but his parries really place him at the top of the mountain. While his attack reversal in Tekken was an excellent blend of both parents, his parry really shows a young boy erasing his history and starting down his own path. For his archetype, I could easily give him a 5 out of 5. Jin has a really refined parry. For some players, they can get far without using it. But so much is gone from their gameplay. When you see a player like Cherryberry Mango or Book use Jin, you can see just how well they're able to incorporate parries into his offense and defense. He doesn't have stances that allow a keep out style, but his parries are a lifesaver for when things get up close and personal. And for this reason, I give him another perfect 5 out of 5. And there you have it. Lei Wulong comes in the number 5 spot with his versatile punch parries. They are really fun and can be used from many of his stances. If his 5 gates parry was faster, he'd easily be a few notches up this list. After Lei, the gender bending Leo comes in with a parry system that really takes advantage of her positions at the wall. Leo has a variety of parries, but beyond the wall,
there really isn't much need for them. Now Geese's parries from the second dimension make their way into the Tekken, and even though the input is difficult, the damage input is there. If one can get used to the different levels, then Geese would probably be higher on this list. Leroy almost makes it to number 1. His parry system is amazing but not quite as refined. There isn't really as strong as a demand for Leroy's parries as there is for the guy in the number 1 spot. And that number 1 spot is taken up by Gene, who has the best parry system in Tekken currently because of his parries are literally like whiffs. They pass right through Gene and he can capitalize on them from an offensive or defensive playstyle. Thank you for checking out this video. Up next we will look at the Sabaki system, move into a Sabaki tutorial, and finally look at the top 5 strings you should Sabaki. Thank you for your time. God bless. Feng Wei. Out.
But here's the deal.